The Council of Eternal Minds had ruled the galaxy for over 3 million years. Their crystalline forms floated in the vast chamber that existed between dimensions, where time moved differently and thoughts became reality. Each elder represented a different aspect of cosmic wisdom. Their consciousness spread across star systems like invisible webs. Elder Zephyrus, the keeper of stellar maps, pulsed with golden light as he addressed the assembly. His voice resonated through their shared mental space, carrying the weight of eons. The quarterly survey is complete. 743 new civilizations have been cataloged. 12 have achieved faster-than-light travel. 3 have developed dimensional manipulation. The other elders responded with subtle shifts in their luminous forms. Elder Vex, the memory keeper, dimmed slightly. And what of the restricted sectors? All remain untouched, as per ancient protocol, Zephyrus replied. The forbidden zones continue to be marked and avoided by all survey teams. Elder Mistral, the youngest at only 800,000 years old, flickered with curiosity. I have always wondered about Sector 7G. The restriction dates back to before my ascension. What lies there that requires such absolute avoidance? A heavy silence fell over the council. The ancient elders exchanged glances that carried millennia of unspoken understanding. Finally, Elder Omnarch, the first among equals, spoke. His voice carried the authority of one who had witnessed the birth and death of countless stars. There exists a system in that sector, a small, unremarkable yellow star with several planetary bodies. One of these worlds harbors a species that we have deemed problematic. Problematic how? Mistral pressed, her curiosity burning brighter. Elder Vex's form darkened with what could only be described as ancient fear. They call themselves humans. When we first discovered them 65 million rotations ago, they were primitive mammals recently emerged from a great extinction event. Standard protocol suggested they would develop along predictable lines, become spacefaring in a few million years, perhaps join the galactic community as a minor member species. But Mistral sensed there was more to this story. Omnarcha's form shifted, displaying images from the cosmic memory banks. But they did not develop as expected. Every projection we made, every careful calculation based on millions of similar species, proved wrong. They accelerated their development at an impossible rate. The images showed the progression of human civilization at an accelerated pace. Stone tools to bronze, bronze to iron, iron to steel, and then an explosion of technological advancement that defied all known patterns. In the span of merely 10,000 rotations, they went from simple agriculture to splitting the atom. Elder Zephyrus continued the account. We watched in growing alarm as they compressed what should have been millions of years of development into mere moments by cosmic standards. Their creativity is unbound by logical limitations, Elder Vex added, his tone heavy with concern. They imagine impossibilities and then make them real through pure stubborn determination. They build machines that fly without wings, travel to their moon using controlled explosions, and communicate instantly across their entire world. Mistral absorbed this information, her form brightening with interest rather than the fear displayed by her elders. This sounds remarkable, not problematic. Why do we avoid them? Elder Omnarcha's response came slowly, as if each word carried immense weight. Because they do not know their place in the cosmic order. Every other species, when they reach a certain level of development, naturally seeks guidance from their betters. They look to the stars with humility, hoping to find wisdom among the celestial realms. Humans do the opposite, Zephyrus interrupted. They look to the stars with challenge in their eyes. They see obstacles to overcome, mysteries to solve, territories to claim. When they achieved spaceflight, their first instinct was not to seek out elder races for guidance, but to plant their own flags and declare sovereignty. The assembled elders shared a collective shudder at this memory. For beings who had grown accustomed to the natural order of cosmic hierarchy, where younger species deferred to older wisdom, Humanity's attitude was deeply unsettling. They have wars. Elder Vex continued the litany of human strangeness. Constant, brutal wars among their own kind. Yet somehow, these conflicts drive them to greater heights of innovation and determination. They treat adversity not as a reason to seek help, but as a challenge to overcome through their own efforts. Most disturbing of all, Omnarch said, his form flickering with ancient unease, they have something we have never encountered in any other species. They possess what they call the human spirit. It is indefinable, unmeasurable, and completely unpredictable. It allows them to achieve things that should be impossible. Mistral's curiosity reached a fever pitch. What kind of impossible things? They have individuals who will sacrifice themselves for complete strangers, Elder Zephyrus replied. They create art that serves no practical purpose other than beauty. They explore dangerous places simply because they exist. They refuse to accept defeat, even when logic dictates surrender. One of their explorers, when his ship became trapped in ice, led his crew on a journey across frozen wasteland that should have killed them all, Vex continued. Not only did they survive, but they maintained morale by playing games and celebrating birthdays in temperatures that would freeze most life forms solid. Another group of their kind, when faced with certain death in a metal tube falling from the sky, spent their final moments not in panic or despair, but in making jokes and comforting each other, Omnarch added. Their final transmission was laughter. The council fell silent as they contemplated these incomprehensible acts of courage and compassion. For beings of pure logic and cosmic perspective, human behavior represented a fundamental challenge to their understanding of how intelligent life should develop. The decision was made long ago, Omnarch concluded. Humanity is too unpredictable, too dangerous to our ordered galaxy. We maintain the restriction not out of malice, but out of necessity. They must be allowed to develop in isolation until they either destroy themselves or evolve beyond their current chaotic nature. And if they don't destroy themselves? Mistral asked quietly. The question hung in the dimensional space like a dark star. None of the elders had a good answer, because deep in their ancient cores, they all suspected the same terrifying truth. If humanity didn't destroy itself, it would likely challenge everything the elders thought they knew about the universe. The restriction remains in place, Omnarch declared with finality. No surveillance, no contact, no interference. Sector 7G is forbidden until further notice. As the council dispersed, returning to their individual realms of cosmic responsibility, none of them noticed the small anomaly in their detection systems. A faint signal, barely registering on their instruments, originating from the restricted sector. It was a transmission, weak but persistent, carrying the unmistakable signature of human technology. The transmission had been traveling for several of their years, moving through space at the speed of light, carrying a simple message repeated in hundreds of human languages and mathematical concepts. This is Earth. We are here. We are listening. We are not alone. But the elders were not listening to Sector 7G. The restriction prevented any monitoring systems from functioning in that region of space. The message passed through their vast network of cosmic sensors like a whisper in a hurricane, unnoticed and unheard. Meanwhile, on a small, blue planet orbiting an unremarkable yellow star, humanity continued its impossible journey of growth and discovery. In laboratories and workshops, in universities and garages, millions of human minds worked on problems both practical and theoretical. They built rockets to reach other worlds, sent signals into the depths of space, and dreamed of the day they would walk among the stars. They had no idea that ancient beings already walked among those stars, beings who had decided that humanity was too dangerous to contact. They had no idea that their very existence challenged cosmic order maintained for millions of years. All they knew was that the universe was vast and full of possibilities, and they intended to explore every single one of them, whether anyone invited them or not. Because that was the human way, to reach for the impossible and make it real through sheer determination and stubborn refusal to accept limitations. The stage was set for a collision between two very different philosophies of existence. On one side, the ancient wisdom of beings who valued order, hierarchy, and predictable development. On the other side, a young species that valued freedom, exploration, and the courage to challenge the unknown. Neither side knew that the other existed, but that ignorance would not last forever. The universe was vast, but it was not infinite, and eventually, even the most careful restrictions could not prevent two civilizations from discovering each other. Dr. Sarah Chan stared at the massive display screen in the Deep Space Communications Center, her coffee growing cold in her hands. The signal had been coming in for 3 months now, and every attempt to decode it had failed. It wasn't random noise from a pulsar or the background radiation of dying stars. This was something else entirely. Run it through the pattern analysis again, she called to her assistant, Marcus Rodriguez, who sat hunched over a bank of computers that hummed with processing power. Already tried 17 different algorithms. Marcus replied without looking up. Whatever this is, it's not following any known mathematical progression. It's almost like it's deliberately avoiding our attempts to understand it. Sarah moved closer to the main display, watching the visualization of the signal as it painted flowing patterns across the screen. The transmission came from beyond the edge of their solar system, from a region of space that should have been empty. But the signal was too complex, too structured to be natural phenomenon. What if we're thinking about this wrong? Sarah mused aloud. We're trying to decode it like it's a message meant for us. What if it's something else entirely? Before Marcus could respond, the display suddenly changed. The flowing patterns shifted, became more organized, more purposeful. New layers of complexity emerged from what it seemed like random fluctuations. Sarah, you need to see this, Marcus said urgently. The signal just changed. It's like someone turned up the power and clarity by 1,000%. Sarah rushed to his station as data flooded across multiple screens. The signal wasn't just getting stronger. It was becoming more complex, more detailed. Hidden structures were emerging from the cosmic noise, revealing themselves like a photograph developing in a darkroom. This is impossible, Sarah whispered. The source would need technology beyond anything we can imagine to generate this kind of signal strength from that distance. As they watched in amazement, the signal began to separate into distinct layers. Some parts appeared to be navigational data, with three-dimensional maps of star systems. Other sections looked like technical specifications for technologies that defied human understanding. But the most shocking discovery was yet to come. Marcus, look at Sector 7 of the transmission, Sarah said, her voice barely steady. Tell me I'm not seeing what I think I'm seeing. Marcus isolated the section and enhanced it on the main display. The data resolved into unmistakable detail, precise astronomical coordinates, energy signatures, and what could only be described as a detailed scan of Earth's solar system. They know about us, Marcus said quietly. Whoever sent this signal, they know exactly where we are. The implications hit them both simultaneously. This wasn't just first contact with an alien civilization. This was evidence that humanity had been under observation by beings capable of technology that made human achievements look like children playing with sticks. Sarah's fingers flew over the controls, diving deeper into the signal's data streams. What she found made her knees weak. Embedded within the transmission were detailed records of human development spanning thousands of years. Agricultural development, the rise and fall of civilizations, technological breakthroughs, even individual human achievements were cataloged with scientific precision. They've been watching us, she said, her voice filled with wonder and terror. For thousands of years, they've been watching everything we do. But that wasn't the most disturbing part. As Sarah continued her analysis, she discovered that the signal contained not just observational data, but predictive models. Detailed projections of human development, technological advancement, and social evolution that extended far into the future. Marcus, these predictions, they go out for the next 10,000 years. And according to this data, humanity is supposed to achieve faster-than-light travel within the next 2 centuries. That's impossible, Marcus protested. Our current physics models suggest FTL travel is fundamentally impossible. Sarah highlighted another section of the signal. According to this, human physics models are incomplete. They're showing us technologies that we haven't even imagined yet. As they delved deeper into the transmission, they uncovered something even more extraordinary. The signal contained what appeared to be educational content, technical specifications for advanced technologies presented in a format that suggested the sender wanted humans to understand it. Why would they do this? Marcus wondered aloud. If they've been watching us in secret for thousands of years, why reveal themselves now? Why give us this information? Sarah was beginning to form a theory, and it frightened her. Maybe because something changed. Maybe something made them decide that secrecy was no longer necessary or possible. Over the following days, Sarah and Marcus worked around the clock to decode more of the transmission. They discovered that the signal was actually a fragment of something much larger, a broken piece of a vast communication network that spanned the galaxy. The technology described in the transmission was beyond anything humans had conceived. Faster-than-light communication, matter manipulation at the quantum level, energy sources that could power entire civilizations. But, more importantly, the signal contained evidence that the galaxy was full of intelligent life, organized into a complex society that had existed for millions of years. Sarah, you need to see this section. Marcus called out during their 4th sleepless night of analysis. I think I found out why they're contacting us now. He displayed a portion of the signal that had been heavily encrypted, requiring advanced quantum computing to decode. The content was a series of what appeared to be emergency protocols and system failures. Their network is breaking down, Sarah realized as she studied the data. Something catastrophic happened to their communication system. This signal isn't intentional contact. It's a malfunction. The revelation was staggering. Humanity's first contact with galactic civilization wasn't a planned meeting or diplomatic overture. It was the equivalent of overhearing a desperate emergency transmission from a sinking ship. But that means, Marcus said slowly, if their network is failing, they might not know that we're receiving this signal. We could learn everything about their civilization before they realize we know they exist. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine as she considered the implications. The signal contained not just technical information, but cultural and historical data about dozens of alien civilizations. Maps of galactic territories, trade routes, political structures, and, most importantly, military capabilities. We're not ready for this, she whispered. Humanity isn't ready to know that we're surrounded by civilizations millions of years more advanced than us. But as they continued their analysis, Sarah began to notice something odd about the data concerning Earth. While the signal contained detailed information about dozens of other worlds and species, the information about humanity was strangely limited and dated. Marcus, look at this. The most recent data about Earth is from over a century ago. Everything after that is projections and estimates, not direct observations. Maybe they stopped watching us. Sarah shook her head. No, it's more than that. Look at the data structure. The information about other species is current, detailed, constantly updated. But the human data has gaps, inconsistencies. It's like they deliberately stopped collecting information about us. She pulled up comparative data about other species in the galactic network. Every other civilization had real-time monitoring data, continuous streams of information about their development and activities. Only Earth showed signs of intentional neglect. We're not part of their network, Sarah realized. We're not even supposed to know they exist. They've been deliberately keeping us isolated. The discovery raised even more disturbing questions. Why would a galactic civilization that monitored dozens of species choose to ignore one particular world? What made humanity different from all the other intelligent species in their network? As Sarah and Marcus worked through the night, parsing through terabytes of alien data, they began to uncover answers that challenged everything they thought they knew about humanity's place in the universe. The signal revealed not just the existence of galactic civilization, but evidence that humanity had been deliberately excluded from it. But the most shocking discovery was still hidden deep in the signal's core data, waiting to be found. Information that would explain not just why humanity had been isolated, but why that isolation was about to come to a dramatic end. The broken signal was more than just a malfunction. It was the first crack in a wall that had been carefully maintained for thousands of years, a wall that was about to come crashing down and reveal truths that both species would find terrifying. In her small office overlooking the desert, surrounded by the quiet hum of computers processing impossible amounts of alien data, Sarah Chun had no idea that she was about to become the first human to discover something that would change the relationship between Earth and the galaxy forever. The signal continued to flow through their receivers, growing stronger each day, carrying with it the accumulated knowledge of civilizations that had risen and fallen before humans learned to make fire. And buried within that vast stream of information was the key to understanding why the galaxy's most powerful beings feared a small blue planet orbiting an unremarkable star. The alarm resonated through the dimensional chamber with a frequency that hadn't been heard in over 2 million years. Elder Omnarch materialized instantly, his crystalline form blazing with urgent light as emergency protocols activated throughout the galactic network. "Report," he commanded, his consciousness reaching out to touch the minds of every elder simultaneously. Elder Zephyrus appeared beside him, his usually calm demeanor shattered by obvious distress. "The core network has suffered a cascade failure. Primary communication nodes throughout the outer spiral arms have gone dark. We're losing contact with entire sectors." "How is this possible?" Omnarch demanded. The network was designed to withstand the collapse of entire star systems. Before Zephyrus could respond, Elder Vex materialized with news that made the situation far worse. "The failure isn't random. Something is actively penetrating our security protocols. Our data streams are being accessed and decoded in real time." The gathered elders shared a collective moment of horror. For beings who had maintained absolute control over galactic communications for millions of years, the concept of their network being compromised was almost incomprehensible. "Show me," Omnarch ordered. Vex projected a holographic display that revealed the scope of the disaster. Across the galaxy, communication relays were failing in a pattern that suggested deliberate sabotage. But more disturbing than the failures was what was happening to the data that was escaping through the breaches. "The intercepted transmissions are being routed to a single location," Vex reported grimly. "Sector 7G. The silence that followed was deafening. For a moment, none of the elders could process what they were hearing. The restricted sector, the forbidden zone they had avoided for 65 million years, was somehow responsible for the greatest security breach in galactic history. "That's impossible," Elder Mistral whispered, her young consciousness reeling from the implications. "We've maintained absolute isolation protocols for that sector. Nothing gets in or out." Elder Omnarcha's form flickered with what could only be described as ancient rage. "Bring up all monitoring data for Sector 7G. Override the restriction protocols. I want to know exactly what those humans have done." "Sir," Zephyrus hesitated, "the restriction protocols can't be overridden. They're hard-coded into the network's core architecture. We would need to physically rebuild the entire monitoring array." "Then do it," Omnarch roared, his voice causing reality itself to ripple in the dimensional chamber. "I don't care if it takes 1,000 years. I want eyes on that sector immediately." But even as the elders mobilized their vast resources, the scope of the crisis continued to expand. Elder Temporus, the keeper of cosmic time, materialized with news that defied all understanding. "The breach isn't coming from outside our network," she reported, her ancient voice trembling with disbelief. The humans are somehow accessing our communications from within their own primitive technology. They're using our own network against us. Explain, Omnarch demanded. Temperus projected a complex diagram showing data flows throughout the galaxy. Their receivers are detecting quantum fluctuations in space-time that shouldn't be detectable with their level of technology. They're treating our interdimensional communications as if they were simple electromagnetic radiation. Elder Vex studied the projection with growing alarm. They're not supposed to be able to perceive quantum fluctuations. Their brains aren't structured for interdimensional awareness. It should be physically impossible. And yet, Temperus continued, not only are they detecting our signals, they're decoding them at an unprecedented rate. Their computing systems are processing information faster than some of our dedicated analysis networks. The implications were staggering. The Elders had based their entire strategy for dealing with humanity on the assumption that humans would develop along predictable lines, following the same evolutionary patterns as every other known species. But humanity was once again demonstrating that their assumptions were worthless. How much data have they accessed? Omnarch asked quietly. Elder Vex consulted his monitoring systems, his form dimming as he processed the results. Approximately 47% of our central archives. Historical records, technological specifications, cultural databases, territorial maps, and his voice trailed off as he encountered something that made his ancient consciousness recoil in terror. And what? Omnar pressed. They've accessed the Strategic Assessment Division. They know about the restriction protocols. They know we've been deliberately avoiding them. They know we exist. They know we've been watching them. And they know we decided they were too dangerous to contact. The assembled elders absorb this information with the kind of silence that precedes catastrophic change. For millions of years, they had maintained their position as the galaxy's guiding intelligence through careful control of information and technological superiority. Now, a species they had dismissed as primitive had not only discovered their existence, but gained access to their most sensitive strategic data. What are they doing with the information? Mistral asked. Elder Temperus consulted her temporal sensors, tracking the flow of data to the small blue planet in Sector 7G. They're analyzing it, cataloging it, and sharing it. Sharing it how? They've distributed the data to multiple locations across their planet. Research institutions, government agencies, military organizations. They're not trying to keep it secret. They're treating it as a scientific discovery to be studied by their entire civilization. Elder Omnarch felt something he hadn't experienced in millions of years: fear. Not the abstract concern of managing galactic affairs, but genuine terror at the implications of humanity's actions. Don't they understand what they've discovered? He asked. Don't they realize they've just learned that their entire civilization is surrounded by beings who could erase them from existence without effort? Temperus consulted her analysis of human psychological patterns based on the intercepted data. According to their behavioral models, they're experiencing what they call excitement. They view this as the greatest discovery in their species' history. They're not afraid of us. They're eager to meet us. The cosmic irony wasn't lost on any of the elders. The species they had avoided because of their dangerous unpredictability had just proven that their fears were justified. Faced with evidence of vastly superior alien civilizations, humanity's response wasn't submission or terror. It was curiosity and anticipation. Sir, Elder Zephyrus interrupted. We're receiving a transmission from Sector 7G. They're attempting to establish contact. Impossible. They don't have the technology for interdimensional communication. They're not using interdimensional communication, Zephyrus explained. They're broadcasting on primitive electromagnetic frequencies, but they're including mathematical sequences derived from our own network protocols. They've reverse-engineered our communication methods and adapted them to their primitive technology. Elder Omnarch closed his consciousness for a moment, feeling the weight of millions of years of cosmic responsibility pressing down on his crystalline form. The moment he had feared since humanity's first tool was used had finally arrived. What does the message say? Zephyrus hesitated before replying. It's addressed to the galactic community and signed the people of Earth. The content is unexpected. He projected the translated message for all the elders to review. To our neighbors among the stars, we have discovered your communication network and learned of your existence. We know you have been watching us, and we understand why you chose to avoid contact. We realize our development has been unusual and perhaps concerning to more established civilizations. We want you to know that we mean no harm to your galactic community. We seek only friendship, knowledge, and the opportunity to prove that humanity can be a positive addition to the cosmic family. We are prepared to discuss any concerns you may have about our species and to work together toward mutual understanding. We await your response with hope and respect for your ancient wisdom. The message was followed by detailed cultural information about humanity, scientific data about Earth's biosphere, and what could only be described as an application for membership in galactic civilization. They're applying to join us, Elder Mistral said in wonder. After learning that we've been avoiding them for thousands of years, their response is to ask if they can be part of our community. It's exactly the kind of unpredictable response we feared, Omnarch replied grimly. Any other species would have either withdrawn in terror or prepared for war. Humans want to have a conversation, but the most disturbing part of the message was yet to be discovered. Buried in the cultural data that humanity had included with their transmission was information that challenged the elders' fundamental understanding of their own superiority. Sir, Elder Vex called attention to a specific section of the human data. You need to see this. They've included examples of what they call human achievement as evidence of their worthiness to join galactic civilization. The examples were staggering. Artistic creations of beauty that moved the emotions of beings who thought they had transcended such primitive responses. Scientific theories that solved problems the elders have been working on for centuries. Philosophical concepts that reframed ancient questions in ways that revealed new depths of meaning. How is this possible? Mistral wondered. They're supposedly primitive compared to us, yet some of these achievements are beyond what we've accomplished in millions of years. Elder Omnarch studied the data with growing unease. The answer was becoming clear, and it terrified him more than any military threat ever could. They're not developing along the same lines as other species, he realized. They're not becoming more like us as they advance. They're becoming more distinctly human. Their strength isn't in matching our achievements. It's in achieving things we never thought to attempt. The message from humanity had revealed a truth that shattered the elders' worldview. They weren't the pinnacle of galactic evolution. They were just one possible path among many, and humanity represented a completely different approach to intelligence, creativity, and cosmic significance. For the first time in their ancient existence, the elders faced a species that didn't want to become like them. Humanity wanted to remain human while still reaching for the stars, and that possibility terrified beings who had spent millions of years assuming that their way was the only way forward for intelligent life. The Council of Eternal Minds had never faced a crisis like this. For 3 days, they had debated humanity's message while emergency protocols struggled to contain the expanding network breach. The dimensional chamber buzzed with conflicting energies as ancient beings who had never disagreed about anything fundamental found themselves divided. Elder Mistral floated at the center of the debate, her crystalline form bright with conviction. We should respond to their message. They've demonstrated remarkable restraint and wisdom in their approach. They could have used our own network data to attack us, but instead they sent a diplomatic communication. Remarkable restraint. Elder Kronos materialized with obvious agitation. They've committed the greatest security breach in galactic history. They've stolen millions of years of accumulated knowledge, and you call that restraint. They didn't steal it, Mistral countered. Our network failed, and they simply received what was transmitted. If anything, their response proves they can be trusted with advanced knowledge. Elder Omnarch observed the debate with growing unease. The division among his council reflected a deeper problem. For the first time in their collective memory, they were dealing with a situation that their accumulated wisdom couldn't resolve through established protocols. The real issue, Elder Vex interjected, is not whether humans are trustworthy. The real issue is whether the galaxy is ready for them. Silence fell as the elders considered this perspective. It was one thing to evaluate humanity's intentions, but quite another to consider the implications of introducing them to a galactic community that had developed over millions of years without their unique brand of chaotic innovation. Explain, Omnarch requested. Elder Vex projected images from the intercepted human data, showing the rapid pace of their technological and social development. Look at their history. Every time they encounter a new idea, they don't just adopt it. They improve it, adapt it, and combine it with other concepts in ways no one anticipated. The projection showed humanity's progression through various technological ages, but more importantly, it showed how each advance built upon the previous ones in unexpected ways. When they discovered fire, they didn't just use it for warmth. They used it for cooking, metalworking, and eventually energy production, Vex continued. When they developed writing, they didn't just record information. They created literature, philosophy, and legal systems. Every tool becomes a foundation for innovations we never imagined. Elder Temperus added her own analysis to the discussion. I've been studying their temporal patterns. Humans don't follow linear development curves. They experience what they call breakthrough moments where they suddenly leap forward by centuries of normal progress. These breakthroughs are triggered by challenges, conflicts, or encounters with new ideas. What are you suggesting? Omnarch asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Contact with galactic civilization would represent the ultimate breakthrough moment for humanity, Temperus replied. Exposure to millions of years of accumulated knowledge and technology would trigger an explosion of innovation that we can't predict or control. The implications were staggering. The elders had maintained galactic stability for eons through careful management of technological advancement and cultural development. The introduction of humanity's unpredictable innovation patterns could destabilize the entire cosmic order. But the alternative is equally dangerous, Mistral argued. They already have our data. They know we exist. Ignoring them won't make the situation go away. If anything, it will force them to develop solutions on their own, which could be even more unpredictable. Elder Omnarch found himself facing the most difficult decision of his long existence. For millions of years, he had guided galactic civilization by following established principles of cosmic order and predictable development. Now he was being asked to gamble that order on a species whose primary characteristic was their refusal to follow any predictable pattern. There's something else, Elder Vex said quietly. I've been analyzing the deeper layers of their transmission. Hidden beneath their diplomatic message is something that changes everything. He projected a new section of data that had been encoded in subtle mathematical variations within the human message. As the elders studied the information, their ancient fears crystallized into terrible certainty. They've solved it, Vex announced. The grand unified theory that we've been working on for 3 million years. The mathematical framework that describes the relationship between matter, energy, space, and time across all dimensions. Humans have solved it in less than a century of serious study. The revelation hit the council like a cosmic shockwave. The grand unified theory was considered the ultimate achievement of galactic science, a goal that had driven elder research for longer than most civilizations had existed. To learn that humans had solved it almost casually as a side effect of their investigation into the alien transmission was beyond comprehension. How? Mistral whispered. They approached it differently, Vex explained. We've been trying to solve it through pure mathematical logic, building on millions of years of accumulated knowledge. Humans started from a completely different perspective. They used intuition, creativity, and what they call thought experiments to explore possibilities we never considered. Elder Kronos studied the human solution with growing amazement. Their mathematics is crude compared to ours, but their conceptual framework is elegant. They found patterns in cosmic structure that we missed because we were looking too hard for complexity. This proves our worst fears, Omnarch said grimly. Humans don't just think differently from us. They think better than us in ways we never anticipated. Their approach to problems reveals solutions that our superior knowledge and experience actually prevented us from seeing. The Council absorbed this truth with the kind of existential horror that only comes from discovering that your fundamental assumptions about reality are wrong. For millions of years, they had assumed that wisdom and capability increased with age and experience. Humanity had just proven that sometimes a fresh perspective was more valuable than accumulated knowledge. There's more, Vex continued relentlessly. They've included practical applications for their theoretical breakthrough. Faster-than-light travel, dimensional manipulation, energy sources that make our technology look primitive. They're not just offering to join galactic civilization. They're offering to revolutionize it. And they want nothing in return, Mistral added, highlighting another section of the human message. They're freely sharing their greatest discoveries as a gesture of goodwill. They could have kept these advances secret, used them to force us into negotiations from a position of strength. Instead, they're offering them as gifts. Elder Omnarch felt the weight of cosmic responsibility crushing down on his crystalline consciousness. The decision he made in the next few moments would determine the future of galactic civilization. Accept humanity's offer and risk the complete disruption of an order that had maintained peace and stability for millions of years. Reject it and risk forcing humanity to develop their revolutionary capabilities in isolation, potentially creating an even greater threat to cosmic stability. What do we know about their military capabilities? He asked. Elder Zephyrus consulted his strategic databases. Primitive by our standards, but that may be irrelevant. If they apply their innovation patterns to military technology enhanced by the knowledge they've gained from our networks. He didn't need to finish the thought. Everyone understood that humanity's approach to problem-solving, combined with access to galactic technology, could produce weapons and strategies that the Elders couldn't defend against. They could conquer the galaxy, Kronos observed. But they don't want to, Mistral countered. Everything in their message and their cultural data suggests they prefer cooperation to conquest. They're not interested in dominating other species. They want to explore, learn, and create. For now, Omnarch replied. But what happens when they encounter species that don't share their values? What happens when they face true threats to their survival? We've seen what humans do when challenged. They innovate, adapt, and overcome through methods no one anticipated. The debate continued for hours, but gradually a consensus began to emerge. The Elders were facing a choice between two uncertainties: the risk of accepting humanity into galactic civilization, or the risk of forcing them to develop in continued isolation with access to stolen galactic knowledge. There's a third option, Elder Mistral said quietly. We could propose a trial period. Limited contact, controlled interactions, careful monitoring of how both sides adapt to the relationship. A trial period with beings who just solved our greatest scientific challenge in a matter of days. Kronos asked skeptically. A trial period with beings who solved it and then freely shared the solution, Mistral corrected. Their actions suggest they can be trusted with responsibility. Elder Omnarch considered all the arguments, all the data, all the implications of each possible choice. Finally, he made the decision that would change the galaxy forever. We will respond to their message, he announced. We will propose direct contact under carefully controlled conditions. And we will prepare for the possibility that everything